In my last video, I talked about some of my opinions on UCOW, or the ultimate crossover web. In this video, if you're interested to hear it, I'll be listing my personal rules for how things should be connected. 1. Canon crossovers only. I want this universe to be as concrete as it possibly can. This rule can be hard to follow because UCOW reaches far beyond the borders of the media I personally consume, and I can't know what is and isn't canon to everything on the web. It can also sometimes be hard to know what's canon to the series I do enjoy, for example, the Mario spin-offs. Nonetheless, I try my hardest to keep everything true to its source material. 2. No self-contained inconsistencies. Shows like The Simpsons or SpongeBob that don't bother to keep track of their own rules should not be included on the list. Properties that have little to no story whatsoever are allowed though, because they can be shaped to fit in anywhere without contradicting themselves. Of course, not everything on the web can comply with each other's rules, but cross-series inconsistencies are very different from self-contained ones. 3. This is going to sound weird, but don't take anything at face value. It is important to keep in mind that fiction is created for the purpose of entertaining us, and not everything is going to make perfect sense. If one small detail in one show doesn't match up with, or even directly contradicts a rule that was set in place in some other show, for example, you can just sort of ignore it and pretend it wasn't presented that way. I know I might sound hypocritical by saying this, but the whole project is really just meant, like anything else, to entertain me, so I let stuff like this pass without paying them much attention. 4. Cameos count. I don't care if it's just some Easter egg. If it's from a canon source, a character from one property appearing in another means that their universes are one and the same. 5. Timelines don't have to line up. Take a look at this image. Why is Fry from Futurama and Kamina from Gurren Lagann, who are both clearly from future time periods, standing in a high school hallway in modern Japan? I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, but it doesn't have to. It's a crazy universe that's been proven to have time travel, magic, and cloning technology. Anything's possible. 6. The universe is not our own. This is another thing that I think the Game Theory channel got wrong. The UCOW universe really can't be the same universe we live in. It has its own version of Earth that is very similar to our own, and it has its own version of real-life people, but it just really doesn't make any sense for it to be our own universe. 7. Crossovers don't count if it's explicitly stated in canon that the two properties don't exist in the same universe. I have a practical example for this one. In Gravity Falls, Stan lets a notebook, a pen, and a coffee mug with a question mark on it fly into a portal. In Rick and Morty, a notebook, pen, and coffee mug with a question mark on it can be seen falling out of a portal. This connection was intentional and is canon, but instead of proving the two shows to coexist, it actually excludes them from one another. As it stands right now, neither Gravity Falls nor Rick and Morty are actually on the web, but if either one of them do get connected, by the rules of the inter-universe travel presented in both shows, it means that the other cannot exist in UCOW. Now, it is entirely possible for another version of the Pines family to exist in Rick and Morty's current universe, and vice versa, but it won't be the version we see of them in their respective shows. 8. Subfiction doesn't disprove anything. Here's another example. In Futurama, it is made very clear that Star Trek is a fictional entity, but that doesn't mean that the events of Star Trek didn't actually happen. Maybe there's a daring do type of situation going on, or maybe it's just a complete coincidence that an author wrote a story that actually happened elsewhere in the universe. 9. Referential intent must be considered. This is what makes things subjective. In the Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, there is an area called the Kakuna Burial. If it is to be believed that actual Kakuna are buried there, then it counts as a link to Pokemon. If it's just a name, then it doesn't count. Here's another example. In Futurama, this exchange happens.
Neat. So where are we going?
Pandora!
That dangerous 3D planet? Can't we just send our avatars?
No, it's cheaper just to have you die.
If this reference were left at that, I would count it as a link drawing in the movie Avatar. But since it was later followed up by showing Pandora, and it seemed to be quite different from Avatar's depiction of the planet, it does not count. 10. And finally, this quote doesn't mean anything.
You know, tomatoes look an awful lot like little Metroids.
No! Stop right there!
What's the matter? All I said was that tomatoes look like little Metroids.
I can't hear you!
Hey, what's your problem?
This game universe and that game universe have nothing to do with each other. So don't go around spreading rumors.